Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for the season finale of Loki, episode 6. Uh yeah. Oh man. I gotta say, like, I did enjoy this episode. But it's just I wanna say it was like some things I'm questioning on. It's just that we'll get to it, but by and large I do love this episode. I love this episode. But I still remain on, like, I'll die on this hill saying like this easily is the best of the MCU TV shows that we got. And we'll just go step by step through the episode. Uh Loki and Sylvie at the front door of this fortress, castle, whatever, the one who rules over the TVA. And then they bump into excuse me, it's like my nose is a little stopped up for some reason. Uh It's not coronavirus, just so you know. I'm fully vaccinated, all this stuff a long time ago, so whatever. But anyway, uh, they bump into Miss Minutes, played by Tara Strong, the amazing Tara Strong. Oh my god, I love Tara Strong. Uh, and she tries to make a deal with them to turn back in exchange. They can rule together, uh, in the same timeline. Loki can beat the Avengers in the battle for New York and even beat Thanos so he doesn't die. And of course they refuse, and then she's, zips away. And then she goes back to Renslayer, which puts uh us in the mindset that a lot of people were guessing on, that Miss Minutes has something to do with, like, at least the right hand woman to the who is Kang. It is Jonathan Majors, who apparently I never watched Lovecraft Country. I don't really have an interest in it. I understand, like, it only had like the one season, but people talking about how great it is, and and people love Jonathan Majors in it, and I guess he's been in other stuff that I probably have not seen, but from what I'm witnessing, with the time we did have him in this so far, and obviously future MCU movies like Ant-Man and the Quantum Mania, uh, I get to see that he was a pretty good actor. I mean, it's like I enjoyed his presence in this episode. Uh, but she goes to Renslayer and you know uh, pass off some information, and then uh, she zips away. We don't know what that information is. Renslayer uh, later on meets up with back up with Mobius, but we'll get to that soon. They finally run into uh, Kang the Conqueror, and as Sylvie tries to like attack him, once they know, like, yeah, I'm just fresh and blood human, yeah. And so, like, every time she tries to kill him, he zips out of time and back in place, because, like, he knows every moment of every word, everything, everything people's gonna do or going to say. He knows. He even handed them like a stack of papers of everything they said. The moment they entered this fortress, and even at the exact up to the exact second when he hands them the papers. So it's like, yeah, I know exactly what is whatever. Uh, uh, we go back to the TVA, or at least B-15. I remember her title now. The the black woman who was released out of her trance by Sylvie. Uh, she led some TV. Like she's been like tasked with leading TVA agents to this particular timeline of the school into the office, who turns out to be, and this is probably in the past, of Ranslayer's actual uh life before the TVA. She's some principal whose name I can't recall, but is one of the in the comics is one of the aliases she goes by, because in the comics this particular person is romantically involved with Kang the Conqueror. Uh, uh, so as soon as every time you know, because he's tasked that every time like a TVA agent is chasing her down, she brings them into his office, watching uh, Renslayer, but it's not Renslayer, at least not yet, and it brings them out of this. This is like a long way around uh, the long form version of what Sylvie does to people. She, forces them to see that they're all variants. So forces them to question, and come to a realization of what's been going on and who they really are. And then Mobius uh, meets up in Ranslayer's office with a pruning stick, and it's like, he's telling like, you betrayed me, you pruned me, and like, you was hiding everything from me, and then she just fires at him like, no, you betrayed me, like, uh, I still believe, despite us being variants, or despite who we not know who actually runs the TVA, I still believe in our cause of maintaining the sacred timeline. And Mobius trying to, with great performances by these two actors, Mobius tried to subdue her, and she easily subdues him. But she did not prune him, which I didn't think she was going to do anyway, because like, why would you prune Owen Wilson twice? It would be like a another jab at the heart, like, after all his time bringing him back, he gets pruned again. But they didn't. And then she takes a portal away, saying that uh uh well, they had like a brief argument over like free will, and she, I guess he's something like off to find her free will. So she leaves, and we go back to Mobius and Sylvie, who are talking with Kang, who mentions he's like his history, that I'm not sure if this was going to be going over in Ant-Man and in the Ant-Man movie or not. Maybe like a little brief recap once that movie comes out, because we don't know when season 2 of Loki will come out. Maybe a little bit before Ant-Man and the Quantumania, just so we can like get a refresher on events that led up to that moment. And then of course in the Ant-Man movie, when Kang is involved, will be, he'll probably go over his history, but it's gonna be like a bad version of him, because good version of him in this show is explaining that I was born in the 31st century, just like Kang the Conqueror was, who, slight spoiler for Fantastic Four at the end of Phase 4 of Marvel Cinematic Universe, he is a very, very distant relative of Reed Richards. So just a little brief overview of that. You can easily do some research on that. It might be a fantastic, well, Kang the Conqueror is an Avengers rogue gallery villain primarily, but he also tangled with the Fantastic Four, most notably Reed Richards. But he goes over that, yeah, he was born in the 31st century. He found a way to go meet up in a different. You found out that there's different universes layered on top of each other, and he found uh, uh, an access to one of them where he meets another version of him, and it started off well, where they, you know, trade knowledge and sciences with each other from each of their respective universes, and it was building off of each other, and it was good. And they started to like bring in more universes with like other good versions of themselves, and repeated the process up until the point when the shoe fell, and they eventually, and which stands to reason that eventually, because it's multiverse, meaning many, and there's many versions of the multiverse where you might run into yourself that isn't so altruistic, which happens to them. And it's like, if you ever watch, because I will do a review of this at some point in the future, the Justice League animated movie, Crisis on Infinite Earths, based off the story of the Justice League members meeting their evil versions in another universe, where like instead of the Justice League, they're called the Crime Syndicate. And there's going to be like a universe where, because throughout this season, I was watching this video where this Japanese man, this famous scientist or physicist or something like that, I forgot his name, but he mentioned in like his like 10 to 12 minute video about, it's been a lot of multiversal talk throughout the MCU up to this point, since Far From Home, that, and then the knowledge of what happening with Doctor Strange in the multiverse of madness, which in the end, like we all suspected, would lead into. And it's like a lot more people are being so invested in the idea, because everybody agrees there's obviously more than one universe. There's a multiverse, and each multiverse has different variations of people, because this might be like a universe, because as he mentions, this might be a universe here where you might be attracted to the same sex. There's a different universe here where you might not even exist. There's another universe here that you might be, similar to you, but the opposite sex. Or there's another universe where you might be a serial killer. And it's like, yeah, that's what pretty much happened to Kang. He met up with, or at least ran into, bad versions of themselves, which caused a multiversal war, where each universe was vying for, the, safety, or like the being the one on top and destroying other universes in the process. So eventually, he, after, by the end of the war, he maintained one. There was only one timeline, sacred timeline now. So he invented the TVA, so to maintain that, so it can avoid any more branches, like the one he made. And he offered Sylvie and Loki to be the ones to take over for him, because despite how he looks, he's very old, he's very tired, and like this order needs to be maintained, because if I die, the other evil versions of me will try to take over, or this multiverse will go out of whack and they will show up and be a whole lot worse than what I'm doing. Even though in Sylvie's eyes, because either she doesn't believe, or she just doesn't care, because I won't say she doesn't care. She just had a single-minded goal, and she wanted to stay true to that mission and to take this guy out after what he took from her. Ultimately, it was his fault. Uh, he created TVA that took her out of her, which we don't still don't know what was her uh variant or nexus event that caused her to be pulled from her home as a child, and then ultimately caused her to go on the run for so many years. So it's hard to like just let go of all that, which I understand. Uh, and despite Loki trying to convince her not to kill him, because he believes that, because him being a known liar himself, he knows when somebody's telling the truth, and he believes that we cannot kill him because we might bring in something worse, or at least multiple worses, and in he just looking on as these two are fighting. And then we had a moment when they kiss, which I was dreading, and I was like, oh god, it's like that's something that like I said in the last episode review that I did, I was hoping this wouldn't happen, but I kind of knew it was expected to happen. I guess there's people out there who might feel cheated if there wasn't a kiss, I guess. But it didn't ruin anything for me. It was just that it was just gross. It's like I said before, like, I believe in live and let live. It's, if you're bisexual, gay, or pansexual, it's cool with me. But I think a lot of people should draw the line at interdimensional sex with oneself, or being involved with the same person as you, but from another universe, or that kind of thing. It's all kinds of weird. But they fight. She ultimately got the upper hand on Loki, pushed him through a portal, and she kills Kang. At least what is supposed to be like the good, or at least good-ish version that was left after the multiverse of war that he was involved in. And you see outside of the fortress, this sacred timeline has a bunch of branches just flowing out of this big stream, like all over the place. And then Loki is very planet, the end of the Planet of the Apes, where it's like, either version where it's like he's expecting to be back home, but instead of people, he's seeing like a bunch of apes still in like civilized modern world. Loki's coming back, and he thinking he's talking to B-15 and Mobius, trying to explain to them, what's going on. He finally met Kang, who's controlling the TVA, and like something's coming, and Mobius is trying to explain to him, like, you're an analyst, right? Trying to think, like, calm down. Who are you? And then Loki's confused, and you look outside the window and seeing, instead of 3 statues of the supposed timekeepers, he sees just Kang's statue right outside instead. And the episode ends. Even when Sylvie killed Kang, I mean, she doesn't look like she got any kind of like satisfaction from that. She just like, well, I did it. So, and there's no end credits, which is another weird thing. It's like we got one end credit scene throughout this entire series, where like Loki wakes up and see his other versions of himself on the Void World, and that was it. We didn't get one last episode, or even a few episodes after the one with him meeting his other versions. And then we didn't get one in this. We got like a little teaser, like Loki will return in season 2, which, no duh, we already knew it was going to be a season 2, and it's been like, announced on various media outlets. So they couldn't throw us a bone, like, I don't know, tease us with something with Ant-Man and the Quantum Mania. Like show us Scott Lang or Hank Pym or something like that. Or even something from uh Eternals, which I think that's the next MCU movie, after Black Widow that we're gonna be seeing in November. I think it's November, or even no, there's gonna be like a trailer coming soon, of a full blown trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. So we might see, because there's go like obviously I knew there's gonna be. I mentioned in like a few episodes of my reviews of this show, like a few videos ago, that I mentioned that like I knew like by the end of this episode or this season, there's gonna be ripple effects of how once like the TVA, well the TVA didn't, uh, necessarily got you know uh, not destroyed, but just like dissolved. Uh, but like all these like branches of timeline, all these ripple effects will go out into the multiverse, and various people are gonna feel these effects. Ant-Man and Wasp going kind of feel the effects, just the fact that they're gonna be dealing with Kang the Conqueror himself, at least an evil version of him. Then uh Spider-Man obviously gonna be feeling these effects, as well as Doctor Strange and Wanda. It'll be interesting to see that. We might get a teaser after the end of Eternals, which we still don't know who's like the ultimate bad guy in that movie will be. But what little I know of the Eternals, their main opposition is usually these deviants who are like who've been around just as long as them, but instead of like being like perfect human species with abilities, is like on the god, almost god tier. Like these are like very malformed creatures that do everything in a power to like just almost destroy everything in their wake. But we haven't seen what they look like in this movie yet, so we probably don't leave that. They're probably gonna leave that a secret until everybody goes sees the movie, which I'm going to be in the theaters to see that. Then Spider-Man No Way Home is going to come in December. But yeah, ultimately this episode was good. It's just that it's a lot of open. It left more open questions than it's solved. Still, it's just like, well, it's like gauging from each season finale of these shows. Because like I mentioned before last week, that I hope this episode doesn't drop the ball in any way. Like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they kind of dropped the ball with Sharon Carter. Like, how does he even get to this point? Why all of a sudden she just turn her back on her friends' beliefs, Cap's beliefs, her own aunt Peggy's beliefs, just because she helped out Cap in his time of need during the events of Civil War and getting his shield back and everything like that, and be on a run for 5 years throughout the events of the snap of Infinity War. Then WandaVision, you got like the Quicksilver stuff where it could have just had him, and then Loki could have explained with. Matter of fact, this end of this season, with all the branching of the timelines, you can say this can run. Well, not run parallel. This Loki was from the Battle of New York 2012 Avengers movie, but since it's out of time, you can say like because of these different branches coming off everywhere, it could explain why this Quicksilver exists, where or well, you gotta explain more mutants but they could have easily had done that with Wanda's powers, like, because her little reality bubble, and with Monica Rambeau igniting something, because she passed him through not only once but twice through this bubble, and igniting some Captain Marvel-ish kind of powers. It could just, like, I don't know, spread or something that unlocks people's mutant gene, because they pretty much, hinted at a mutant gene in that show with going through Wanda's backstory, and like Agatha being as, like, because mutants gain their powers is usually because not only they have the gene, but it unlocks when under stressful situations and as teenagers. Like a hint, like it's kind of like like explaining puberty in a way, but and usually that's something like that isn't found in humans, as Agatha said, but normally they just die off the vine kind of situation or something like that. Usually it dies off the vine, but uh, but yours managed to hang on in some fashion when you're sitting there and you're focused on you're focusing so hard on making sure that bomb that you saw Stark's name on doesn't go off. At first you might thought it was luck, that it was supposedly defective, but it might not have been defective. It's just Wanda's using her reality warping powers, or mystical powers, to keep that from going off while her and her brother are trapped under all that rubble until somebody went and saved them. But yeah, man, they could have explained that, but they probably wouldn't. Now I'm thinking about it, probably wouldn't make too much sense. But they could have done something. I mean, it's hard to say which season finale, did it better, and I think maybe Loki slightly did. It didn't drop the ball too much. I mean, it's like, at least they didn't treat it kind of like a boner joke, and it's like no character felt out of place with their, character like they did with Sharon. So it's like I still enjoyed it, like I still enjoyed all these season finales, or at least the shows by and large. But I still maintain that Loki is still slightly better than the other two. It's up in the air which one I like, with because I still like like obviously like them both, but just with one I like just slightly less than out of all the three, if I can rank them. It's like Loki, Cap, and Winter Soldier, and then WandaVision right below low tier, because mostly the first few episodes was kind of slow, and it's been like up until the last two episodes, or last three, I think it was the last two episodes of WandaVision, it was just maintaining just a 20 to 30 minute episode. And it's like, God, it's just like, it could have like, it would have been slightly shorter, but they could have like merged the first 2 or 3 episodes into one episode, which could have been like well, at least the first 2 episodes would have been like 42ish minutes, 42 43 minute episode on itself, so it doesn't feel like we're like, I know they was trying to maintain the whole sitcom era kind of stuff up until like the last couple of episodes when they're more modern TV shows, but it just felt like we were lacking something, and it was slow. Even like my stepmother is watching these shows too. She's not a huge comic book fan, but she, pops into something that catches her eye with a lot of these shows, so she knows a handful of what's going on. And she couldn't get into WandaVision, so she dropped it after the couple of episodes. And then when I went to go to her when first get my hair done, which eventually I need to do so, but I'll wait till October before I take my vacation, a vacation trip. But when I first had her, put my hair in locks, I was explaining to her that, no. I understand what you mean about like the first two episodes was slow. I agree, and this is coming from avid comic book fan and an MCU fan. Uh, it is slow, but after episode 3, it really does pick up. So she went back to it. She watched through the completion. I recall she saying she enjoyed it, but those first two episodes was slow. Then add on top of the fact that they dropped the ball with Quicksilver, and it's like either bring in either stick with the Evan Peters Quicksilver from the X-Men movies, or if they want to treat him like a throwaway character, like this is not your actual brother, as someone I just pulled off the street and made into your brother just to keep you distracted, then get some rando that we don't know. And I mentioned this before. If they want to treat it like a boner jerk, that's their prerogative. But don't get the actual person who played this character in a different movie that we would have loved to have in the MCU. Just either do it or don't do it. I wouldn't care which, but don't do what they did, where it's like they treat this great character who arguably, besides like most other of the X-Men characters from like the Bryan Singer stuff or even Wolverine, it's like besides like Hugh Jackman, James McAvoy, and Patrick Stewart or Ian, I forgot his last name, the older Magneto, and then the younger version, I forgot that actor's name, Michael Fassbender. Beyond those guys, Evan Peters was phenomenal, and he usually has like the best scenes from the last few X-Men movies before Fox gave him back to Marvel. And then once we got to Captain Winter Soldier, yeah, all those were episodes were like 40 minutes long, kind of like nearly an hour. And they probably only dropped the ball with Sharon Carter mostly, and but everything else seems to was doing pretty well. Like I was thoroughly enjoying everything else. I might be forgetting something else from that show, but it didn't stick out that much for me compared to what they did with Sharon. I always felt like that was egregious. What they did with her character arc. There's like no reason why she goes bad or breaking bad on, her beliefs or her friends like that at the end. And people tell me like, well, she could be a Skrull. It's like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, no, they're gonna have to actually. They can't sweep it on the rug, or it's like they could. It's like, oh yeah, she was a Skrull all the time, so we didn't ruin this character for you. Like, you gonna have to. Me personally, I would rather not be her being a Skrull and actually them working at like explaining their decision and making Sharon break bad. I would rather have them saying like, no, this is actual Peggy Carter, or Sharon Carter. She actually did this. She's committed to this, and here is why. And the next time you see Captain America and Winter Soldier in the future, and how she led up to this, so that way it can better explain the decisions she made at the last episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. And with the power broker thing of it all, that was another thing I was thinking about. The whole power broker thing, like, we wonder who's the power broker is. And I remember now. The other thing that kind of stuck out for me is the fact that in Falcon and Winter Soldier, as I mentioned before, it's like because I know it was during COVID, and same thing with Loki show. It was current. It was in production during the whole COVID thing was coming down, or at least about to go down with the whole shutdown period. Uh, but they felt like they were rushing or just skipping certain key tidbits that could fill in some gaps because they want to make it the like 6 episode marker, or at least just deal with like the major stuff. uh I further explained that if you watch my all of my Captain America and Falcon and the Winter Soldier spoiler reviews. It's up on my YouTube channel. You can check those out. I'll probably explain in detail when that happened. But yeah, but Loki, they maintain quality up until this point with when we finally meet Kang. But the fact that they didn't uh answer most questions so far as like, yeah, I don't know. It just feel like maybe it'll be further explained in season 2, but like okay, I just like there's more questions they did not answer out there. It's because like normally when you're dealing with a self-contained season, there are some questions by the end of the season. There's certain questions that's filled in for us, like why is there this Mobius and B-15 is he another timeline he got put when you push through the portal? He went through another Nexus timeline instead of the one he was coming from in the first place, and he's done with a Mobius that doesn't recognize him, or at least just it doesn't feel like something was answered. It's like something was missing. I cannot I can't articulate it any better, but just like there's something. But despite that, it's still better. And it's like, each episode, well, I think the first episode was 10 out of 10. And everything else seems like a very, well, I think the first 2 episodes were 10 out of 10. But everything else seems like a 9 out of 10. So this is like a nearly perfect show. Nearly. You just maybe like the entire season, maybe 9.5. Well, I give maybe the other 2 episodes maybe like an 8. I mean, I might give like Falcon Winter Soldier like a 8.5, nearly 9, nearly. Because it's just like, it's like a few drops of the ball from that show. But I give maybe like an 8 or 8.5 with WandaVision because there was still stuff that was like, ugh. It's like there's certain choices that like I did not agree with, despite the great acting involved with everybody in the show. It's just like the first a couple episodes slow as hell. The Quicksilver boner joke that did not sit well with me. I would die on a hill saying like, yeah, that sucked. Either do it or don't do it. But yeah, please let me know what you guys think of the season finale of Loki series. Did you enjoy it? Did you have some questions about it? Pros and cons, that kind of thing. It's gonna be a while before we get another Disney Plus show. I'm still watching The Bad Batch. I might do a season overview of that once reach. I think it's only has 16 episodes. I think. Once that's done, I will do a review of that, give you my thoughts. But then we probably will get I think it was in middle of August we'll get the What If show. I'm not a huge fan of the What If comics, unlike some people. I gotta be honest with you, because mostly they end on bleak notes, and it's like I'm not a huge fan of like bleak stories. It's a few outliers, of course. I can't name them right now. I don't, not off the top of my head, but by and large, I don't like brief of endings, bleak endings, and that's what you'll get for most of these what if stuff. But these what ifs is based off the MCU franchise itself, not the comics. Except they might hint at the comics, like one what if episode will be about like the zombie verse, where like in the comics there's a what if comic. Not what if, it's just that it's like a different universe of the Marvel universe, where that world is plagued by a zombie virus, and a large portion of the superhero community were infected, and then ravaged their world. Which, in that in their version of their telling of it, in this MCU version of the retelling of that, will be based off something like that. But I don't like that. Something I definitely don't like. Really, like the Marvel zombies. I never read any of that. I caught highlights from other people who reviewed those kind of things. I'm not a fan. I don't like, mostly because zombies are not my thing. I like the first George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, of course. That is like part of my favorite zombie movie. But by and large, now he's a zombie guy. And there's an episode where it's like Spider-Man becomes a sorcerer supreme or being taught magic, and then like an episode where Sharon Carter becomes Captain America instead, stuff like that. I mean, I might catch something here and there, excuse me, but I won't be doing like an episode, each episode reviewing. I might just give my overall thoughts on the season, because I might catch certain spots here and there. But by and large, it'd be nice to finally get some sleep instead of having to stay up to 2 in the morning just to catch these shows and get a video out. And it just, that's why I like doing like TV show season reviews, like I did with Yu-Gi-Oh!, Jackie Chan Adventures, and recently Fantastic Four: World's Greatest Heroes. It's just that it's a little bit easier. But I'll see you guys next time. Definitely want to do a review for the Eternals. So I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to Spider-Man 3. Crossing my fingers, because obviously it's going to be having like the villains from these various movies coming in, but obviously Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. Cross my fingers, because they didn't say it, but it's like, come on. Obviously, they're bringing them in. But anyway, see you guys next time. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow me on my Patreon. Links in the description.